Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Mark, the host of Wake Up Heavy, and I am once again prefacing an episode with an apology due to technical issues. This is not a microphone issue this time, but a number of recording issues that made it necessary to use the Skype recordings. On my side of the Skype recording, there are numerous clicks and other noises throughout the first part of this chat with my daughter, and there's simply no way to get rid of those. Instead of just scrapping the whole thing and making my daughter do this over again, I am presenting it as is. I hope it doesn't detract too much from your enjoyment of this episode. At least these don't cost anybody anything other than my dignity. And no, neither my daughter or I swear during this episode. I was just having fun with the bleep button. So don't send me any f***ing angry letters.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. On this episode, my weird dad and I will be talking about
the mightiest monsters of all time, King Kong, Mammoth, Unconquerable versus Godzilla, released from an icy tomb to pulverize a panic-stricken world. King Kong, Godzilla, together on a rampage of destruction, fire-breathing, colossal Godzilla, impervious to man's most fiery weapons. Nothing you have ever seen, nothing you have ever felt could prepare you for this colossus of entertainment. Spectacular, unbelievable, the world's mightiest monsters in the battle of the century. Mighty King Kong, immune even to 1 billion volts of electricity. Godzilla, immune to man's most fiery weapons. King Kong, the unconquerable. Godzilla, the indestructible. King Kong versus Godzilla.
Ready to go?
Heck yeah.
Today we are talking about a couple of Godzilla movies. The first one we watched was
King Kong versus Godzilla
from 1962. So this was, I believe, the third Godzilla movie. I decided to make you watch some of these with me because of the new Godzilla versus King Kong that's coming out on the 31st. We're going to watch some of the battle movies, Godzilla versus so-and-so. And I did find another King Kong movie from this company where he battles people. So maybe we'll squeeze that one in too, and some of the other King Kong movies. We'll see what we get to. So the plot of this one was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
So I'll try and explain this one, and then you can explain the second movie.
All right.
So we have three things going on here at the beginning. We've got the pharmaceutical company that is losing money on their advertising. or because of their advertising, or because they're boring. And they find out that there's a monster on a nearby island, and the head, I guess, of the advertising department of this pharmaceutical company for some reason thinks that this will be their new mascot, sends a couple of his employees off to this island to trap and bring back this monster. And then we also have an American submarine, I believe, in a different part of the ocean up in the Arctic, who is receiving a signal due to massive amounts of radiation, and they find this glowing iceberg out in the ocean. And then later on we have another story about a Navy boat that's out in a separate part of the ocean. All three of these things end up tying together towards the middle of the movie or so. A little bit confusing. We've got stuff about berries on the island. We have natives on the island. We have this greedy advertising executive and something about super thread.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really thin and strong and plays a part towards the end of the movie. This was a first-time watch for both of us. What did you think about this one?
It was pretty good. Like you said, it was kind of confusing. I didn't know about the Navy boat part until like halfway through, because I was more focused on the berries, the island that they were traveling to.
Yeah, I think we may have missed something, because the guy that was on the boat was the boyfriend of the girl who was one of the pharmaceutical company's
sister
employees.
Yeah,
she was his sister. I don't remember him saying anything about having to go out on that boat, but he was the one that was in the Navy boat. So we had the two pharmacy company guys going to the island. The boyfriend was on the Navy boat, and then we had the separate thing with the submarine, and they're kind of connected, but not really. It's just a bunch of loose bits and pieces that end up tying together. But the main part of this movie, it's almost half remake of the 1933 King Kong movie, where people travel to an isolated island filled with natives and encounter King Kong. So what did you think about those scenes on the island?
Well, they were fantastic. The octopus is still in my nightmares. It was terrifying.
Yeah, that was unexpected. I was not expecting a live octopus, and apparently, in the little bit of reading that I did on this, they used 5 different octopi, 5 real
weird.
octopi, and then when it's wrapped around King Kong's head, it's a fake one. But yeah, that was creepy, actually. It was really effective because it was actually real. Some of the special effects around it were a little bit funky, but the octopus itself sliming over things and its tentacles moving, I mean, you can't beat the real thing, especially since it was on land.
Yeah, that was weird. It kind of just appeared, and we were like, okay, this is very strange.
I think that's a theme in these movies. Things just sort of happen, and then they have to deal with them, and they deal with them pretty easily, usually. But that whole setup on the island with the berries also played a part in what they were looking for on the island. Like, they had special properties.
Yeah.
But they basically, the natives use it to do what?
To put King Kong to sleep, basically. It's like a sleeping thing.
Get him drunk and pass out, which he ends up doing, and that's how they get him off the island. One of the other things I kind of wanted to go into in these movies were the special effects.
I actually liked them, at least the people dressed up in King Kong and Godzilla suits, basically. That was great. But some of the, I don't know what it's called when they project stuff onto screens, that was a little strange, especially when they were throwing stuff at the monsters, because it kind of just bounced off the screen instead of looking like it actually hit the monster.
The compositing in King Kong vs. Godzilla was not as effective I don't think they actually did front projection, but that's what it looked like they were trying to do, which can be effective, but when you're dealing with a difference in scale that's so massive like this, it won't work unless you're using little miniature people too, which they do on occasion use little dolls and things, which I enjoy.
When King Kong was holding that girl, it literally was like a Barbie, but
I prefer it when it's the doll in his hand versus the green screen of her in a big puppet hand. That pulls me out more than him holding an obvious Barbie type doll. But I really enjoy the miniatures themselves, like when they roll out the tanks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those are awesome looking.
The helicopters, I was really impressed by the helicopters. There were a few times when I thought, wait, is that a real helicopter?
Yeah.
But then you can kind of see the matte painting of the sky in the background and go, oh no. A lot of times, helicopters and planes, when they do miniatures, the blades aren't going fast enough, so you realize it's fake, but these were really zipping by and moving really quickly. This is King Kong versus Godzilla, so they have to meet up and fight. We didn't watch the one prior to this, so I don't know what happened to them in that one. If they froze it because Godzilla comes out of that iceberg when the helicopter's flying over it. So this is where our two stories start to intersect, where they're bringing King Kong back, Godzilla escapes, the pharmacy exec is upset because Godzilla is going to take away all the publicity that he was hoping King Kong would have. You know eventually they're going to meet. Let's talk about the battles in these. They meet up twice.
Yeah.
So in the first meetup,
I wouldn't say anticlimactic, but it's a pretty good fight. But at the end, King Kong just is like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight anymore. Bye-bye. He doesn't really, lose. He kind of just walks away. But the fighting is actually pretty cool. It's two, guys literally just, fighting in animal costumes. It looks pretty realistic, but the end was strange of the first round.
After Godzilla zaps him a few times and King Kong realizes that his fur is on fire, he just sort of says, I'm out of here, and takes off. And then, they both clomp around different parts of Japan and destroy things, and we've got a couple train sequences, and one of them destroys trains at one point, or maybe it's both times it's Godzilla.
It's probably Godzilla. He's got a bit of a temper.
Well, round one goes to Godzilla because King Kong taps out.
Yeah.
The Japanese are really terrified and hate Godzilla still at this point. Godzilla is still, I don't want to say an enemy.
Like a threat.
I think in later movies, they make it more that they are the ones that are saving Japan from other giant monsters. And that's not really the case here.
He's kind of just on a rampage.
Godzilla's on a rampage. King Kong gets loose as they're taking it to Tokyo. They end up having to blow him up on the raft, and they don't really blow him up, and he just gets ticked off and goes there anyway. In the second battle, though, they do pit them against each other. This is Japan saying, okay, King Kong, go kick Godzilla's. We get them anesthetizing King Kong again with those bombs that contain the berries from the island that put him to sleep, and then
that one guy does a whole ceremony by himself, which, good for him.
This is sort of where you have to dismiss logic all day. Well, we're dealing with giant monsters.
Yeah, true.
But it's nice to have a little bit of realism. Everything is at their disposal. Anything that they need, they get immediately and are able to utilize it. I believe they wrap King Kong up in the super strong thread that the Navy guy mentioned earlier. Otherwise, I don't know why they had that in the movie, but I missed that. He must have said at some point.
I think so, but I didn't hear it. I just remember them we gotta pick him up with balloons, and they did. So,
which was pretty great. Another great image is Kong going through the air and his one leg hanging down.
Yeah, that was great.
Then they have their final battle their second of two battles. This is where we get all the rock throwing, tail flipping, and just
Angry
lots
kicking.
of rocks. Lots of rocks. What does Kong eventually do to get a leg up on Godzilla?
He kind of just hides behind a rock and waits for Godzilla, and he grabs his tail.
It's the tail grabbing that I think eventually gives him the leg up.
Yeah.
And I think they even had a little bit of stop motion in there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've got the big guys in suits, and I don't know about you, and I don't mean this as a diss on the movies, but I'm never not aware that the monsters are big guys in suits.
It's kind of obvious, but it's...
It's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it's a puppet or stop motion for certain scenes, and it's always kind of fun to see how they edit those different special effects together. So who wins the second and or final battle of King Kong versus Godzilla?
Godzilla does again, right?
Well, what happens to Godzilla at the end?
I remember now. Doesn't he fall into the ocean, or is that the second movie?
No, he falls into the ocean,
Okay, yeah.
and
King
so
Kong
apparently
pushes him.
sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and
Yeah.
King Kong says, "Adios, I'm going back to my island, leave me alone."
Yep.
So I would give the second round to King Kong in that.
Yeah.
While we go through these movies, I had a little checklist. Maybe not every movie will hit every one of these points, but we'll see how that goes as we get further on. So is King Kong vs. Godzilla more on the serious or silly side?
It's more silly, I think. It's with like the string and the pharmacy stuff. It's kind of silly. I like it though.
What is the moral of the story for this one?
Honestly, don't try to get a giant monkey to be your mascot for your sleep berries.
The problem is greed. The moral, like you said, don't go taking giant monkeys off of islands. The moral can be summed up by what one of the characters says at the end of the film. I guess we should treat plants and animals better.
Yeah.
And there's always the underlying theme of nuclear radiation and nuclear power. I think we'll see that in a lot of these. And of course, that's what Godzilla was born from. And the first movie is all about that fear and danger that it represents. How would you rate the battles in this?
Out of 10, I'd say like, like 6 or something. They were okay. I liked them, but...
They were fun. There were only 2 real battles. Unless we count the octopus battle with King Kong was pretty epic.
Yeah, that one was awesome, but...
Their battles together were, a little clunky, and I think part of that had to do with Kong's suit and having the really long arms and things like that.
Yeah.
And how would you rate the effects in this one?
They were pretty good. I'd honestly probably give it a similar rating, like 5 or 6 out of 10. Just because the screen stuff.
And I think that gets better, and we'll be able to compare, as we go along. We'll compare these 2 that we watched, and then in the next episode we can talk about whether those movies are better than the ones we previously watched and kind of get a better scale. But yeah, they weren't great. I think the miniatures are pretty amazing. The costumes are a little clunky, even for Godzilla, and the green screen and composite scenes are less convincing, I think, here.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the second part of this episode.
Godzilla vs. the Thing, a shattering motion picture not for the weak of heart. Here in all its astounding realism is a soul-shocking experience. How much terror can you stand? What was this thing of unbelievable and unequaled terror that challenged Godzilla to a battle of unhuman strength versus supernatural evil? Godzilla versus the Thing. See the war of the giants. See the birth of the world's most terrifying monster. See armies of the world destroyed by the Thing. The producers of Godzilla vs. the Thing issue warning to those who cannot take its full horror. To you with guts, you must see Godzilla vs. the Thing from the beginning in color scope from American International.
You kind of picked this second one out of the choices that I gave you. Mm-hmm. So why don't you describe Mothra versus Godzilla?
From what I remember, even though we watched this 2 days ago, we start with the massive egg on a beach. It's Mothra's babies. Or baby. Everybody's like, well, what the heck? There's a massive egg on the beach, and we know that we kind of have some weird monsters running around here. So we have news reporters, I believe, who are like, this is strange, and I don't think it should be here. There's another guy who's like, but the tourists, but the people who will come to the beach if we have a massive egg here. The publicity, I guess. So that's kind of like a small conflict. There's other, I'm guessing, the same reporters who goes back to, I think, his office. There are two very small twin ladies who are like, hey, we need help. That's our god's egg on the beach. There's egg.
The journalists end up helping the twins, our little tiny twins, but they originally appear in the office of the bad guys.
Okay,
They're the ones who buy the egg from this village because the laws are that whatever this village finds or fishes out of the sea belongs to them. So they have the rights to the egg. They sell it to this greedy guy. This greedy guy's partner, who is basically funding all of this stuff, wants to make an amusement park around the egg and have people come in, and that's when the twins, and I unfortunately don't remember what their names are.
I don't even know if they have
say,
names.
No, we need our egg back. It's Mothra's egg, and Mothra's dying, and we need it. And they try to capture them, and then the journalist and his photographer, the female photographer, end up helping them. It's a little bit similar to King Kong versus Godzilla, which was the one before this. We watched these two kind of in order.
Yeah.
Which will probably go out the window with whatever we watch next.
Yeah.
But they go to an island with natives again. This island has been decimated by nuclear radiation. They have this little pocket of the island in a cave that's kind of an oasis.
Yeah.
And that's where Mothra is. I want to know if you remember this. How does Godzilla appear in this one?
Oh. Duh.
Do you remember?
I don't know if I was actually in the room when he appeared. Might have been getting apple juice.
Well, that's probably true, actually. I think you were. They are doing the excavation for this and unearth Godzilla.
Oh, yes. I remember. Yeah.
When Godzilla appears, this means big trouble for Japan. And that's part of the reason why they go to the island. Say, hey, they're kind of striking up a deal with Mothra. Like, hey, come and take care of Godzilla. We'll give you your egg back.
Yep.
Once again, we only have 2 battles.
Yeah, we only have 2, and one of them is only with Mothra.
The twins say that Mothra agrees to go because she's on her last legs, and why not? She's going to die anyway, and I'll take that chance to get my egg back to this island. Their fight, I really enjoyed. I liked that giant Mothra puppet. I don't believe that there's anybody in that, so it's going to be flying around on strings, which I didn't really notice. I don't know if you saw any strings.
No, I didn't. I just remember being kind of memorized by the wings, how they moved, because it was really smoothly.
Yeah, and they flapped pretty hard, especially when Mothra creates the big wind.
Mm-hmm.
They were really going, and I'm sure that was probably a different version of the puppet.
Yeah.
Motorized wings that moved a lot faster. And that wind was one of the tools that Mothra used against Godzilla, and it was pretty effective. Of course, it blew everything else around it down, the structure that was surrounding the egg. And that poor guy's, well, not poor guy, but that guy's wonderful idea of the tourist attraction was destroyed pretty quickly.
And the egg went rolling off too, which was scary for the babies, I guess.
Rolling off and then hit a rock or something, and I thought that was what was going to split it open.
Yeah, but it survived for longer than that, so...
What are the other tactics that Mothra used against Godzilla? What can a big giant moth do?
Grab its tail and drag it around. That was probably one of my best parts, because this big moth, which you would think isn't that strong, especially since she's dying, but she drags him a pretty long ways and pretty easily by the tip of his tail. I'm
getting the idea that maybe that's Godzilla's weakness, is their tail.
Yeah. King Kong and Mothra both went for its tail, and they both got an upper hand on it, so...
This story's a little simpler. We don't have the 3 different plots coming together. We don't have a lot of extra characters. Speaking of characters, I noticed that there were 2 of the same actors in both of these films playing different characters, and I'm curious to see how many other people we encounter like that through the rest of the series that we end up watching. We'll have to kind of make points of that, but I recognized at least 2 guys from King Kong versus Godzilla in this. And so the second battle, and I'm trying to think if there's a third battle.
I don't.
Or a battle in between there, because Mothra doesn't last too long after that.
Yeah, she gets... No, I wouldn't say killed, because I think it just weakened her to the point where she died after the battle, I guess, but she didn't win that one, I guess.
Eggs hatch. We don't have 1 Mothra grub. We have
2.
At this point, Godzilla has taken off and is heading to... I don't think it's Mothra's island, or maybe it is. But
I don't know.
He goes, or they go off and leave that area, probably wounded from battle.
Mm-hmm.
And our grubs take off after them in the sea, which I thought was pretty great. And they're funky little gloopy bodies.
Weird little bodies swimming around, which honestly, pretty cool. Just massive grubs swimming through the ocean. It was cool.
Yeah, and I liked how they moved in the ocean and on the land. I couldn't quite see any motorized wheels or anything, so it was done very effectively. And again, the miniatures in this are great. We see tanks again, like we did in King Kong versus Godzilla, and they seemed a little bit more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
In the second battle in this one, what do the grubs utilize?
They're silk, I guess you could call it.
They go after Godzilla's tail again. I think one of them bites his tail.
Yeah, and it gets flung around a bit.
Which is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
And then they open their mouths and they start spitting out silk. That goes on for a good, 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. I mean, it works.
Yeah, it ends up being very effective. In this one, Godzilla loses both rounds.
Because he runs away in the first round to go, be mean to an island. Then he loses to Mothra's kids, who were, born 2 seconds ago. So...
Once again at the end, Godzilla disappears into the ocean.
Yep. He gets like so wrapped up in silk that I think he loses his footing and he falls into the ocean. He could have drowned, but I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think since there's more of these, he's probably okay.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the second round, actually, in this is Godzilla versus people, and they do something similar. I guess that could have been a battle in King Kong versus Godzilla. Maybe we'll keep it to the giant monster battles in these, but we can bring up that the same thing happens in both.
They try to dig a giant hole for Godzilla to fall in.
Yeah, and in King Kong vs. Godzilla, I believe they try and blow him up. I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep saying him.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know when that becomes defined in the series. I know that later on, and like in the American versions, Godzilla is usually female and has eggs and is trying to take care of her eggs. We're not trying to misgender Godzilla here. It just kind of keeps coming out that way.
Yeah. And I did look it up, and what Google said was that in the English dubs of the Japanese movies, it was mostly referred to as male, but in the movies that we watched with just subtitles, it was mostly just it, so...
Yeah, they said it a lot. I noticed that. Which I'm trying to do, and since it is a giant creature that we don't know much about, in the context of what we've watched, that makes sense. Both movies, they try and trap Godzilla in giant holes. So a lot of similarities between these two. And again, we'll see if that kind of plays out in further movies where they just keep using the same ideas over and over again. Yeah, tactics. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of similar things. There's always radio towers and electricity towers. And
yeah, a lot of King Kong just electrocuting. Like, a lot of electrical stuff, which doesn't seem to work on either of them.
I think King Kong actually used the electricity. It seemed like lightning was a source of his power on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know that electricity would bother Godzilla since it's a giant irradiated monster.
Yeah.
What's your ranking as far as serious to silly?
It's kind of still lighthearted. I wouldn't say as silly, but like the singing and stuff, and like twin grubs defeating a giant monster, kind of silly.
Yeah, and the twins themselves. What's their deal? What? Why? Why do we have these tiny little twins?
Why are they tiny? And why did they sing to Mothra? I never caught on to why they even sang to her. But I guess it was like a ceremony similar to King Kong and the drums.
Yeah. I felt this one had a little more serious vibe than King Kong. Maybe more in the middle between that scale than King Kong was sliding slightly further to silly.
Yeah. And I think it's more serious because Mothra does, like, die in the middle of the movie.
The tone maybe is a little more serious, even though there is still silly stuff still happening. And what's the problem in this?
It's greed again. They don't want the egg to go, even though it's pretty much the sources of the problem. Like, Godzilla's like, I want to eat that egg, dude. And they're like, but we wanted it on our beach. So...
Again, I believe it's the last line one more time. The only way to thank them is to create a better world.
Yeah.
So there's always kind of a environmental theme in these, the nuclear power stuff, taking care of the planet and not basing everything on greed and power.
Which I think is really cool, especially because these movies are from, like, the 60s. Obviously, I wasn't alive in the 60s, but I don't think environmental stuff was a big issue back then.
It was becoming a big issue, and I mean, shortly after these movies, we have Earth Day started in 1970, and so there were concerns. It was coming around more. What about the effects in this one? Costumes, miniatures. We have a little bit of the composite green screen stuff, not as much as King Kong versus Godzilla. You know, the twins are green screened.
Yeah. I like the effects in this much more. We both noticed that they used huge sets to make the twins look tiny in some scenes where they were running around, which I love. I love when movies do that. I think it's so cool. And the effects were much better, especially like what you said with the grubs. I couldn't really even tell if they were being like, if it was like a animatronic basically, or like someone crawling around in a worm suit.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell, so I really liked it.
I agree. I couldn't figure out how they were moving. The miniatures looked a little bit better. Since there wasn't as much of the green screen and composite images, you didn't get pulled out as much.
Yeah.
Cinematography in the miniatures made it appear a little bit more realistic too, like they kind of learned, okay, this is how you shoot miniatures a little bit better. So overall, in the Battle of the Godzilla battles, which of these two movies do you prefer?
I'd say Mothra versus Godzilla. I like the battles much more. They're more smooth, I guess, and they're better than the King Kong ones.
I'm going to have to go with King Kong versus Godzilla between these two. There was something about that one that, I don't know if it's just the appearance of King Kong. I'm not the biggest King Kong fan in the world, but there's something about that character and his plight in life in the movies that has always kind of appealed to me. So I'm going to have to give this one to King Kong. So it's a split. So next time we'll have to see if we like either one of those that we watch better than these two, if there'll be a clear winner. So we'll call this one a draw.
Mm-hmm.
And then who knows which ones we'll watch next time.
Yeah.
We'll have to look through our list.
Yeah, I don't even know which ones are next.
Well, and we don't have to go in order, but we'll find a couple maybe that are sort of similar or have the same enemies in them and watch those. But we're not beholden to any rules on this. We're just going to watch what we want to watch.
Yep.
All right, Cleo. Well, thank you for chatting with me, and I'll see you again next time.
You're welcome. Epic. Oh gosh.
Panguradan tunjukkanlah kesaktian Mothra ya Mothra dengan kesaktian Indomu lustawilah hamba-hambamu yang tanda panguradan